Welcome back. I got another video. This is not planned. This is not written out. This is going to be my thoughts on stand-up comedians and what role they serve in society. Maybe I put them on too high of a pedestal. I think I do. I think I put them on a very high pedestal. Not all stand-up comedians. There's ones that'll just talk about silly things that'll get you laughing. I don't mind those. I'm fans of those. My favorite comedians actually have something to say, though. They like to challenge the status quo, especially if it's silly. Comedians that see the world as clearly as they can. And they want to educate. Get others to see, pardon me. Get others to see how they see it. Also, the thing about a stand-up comedian that I might be imagining, but I think it's true, is that they're killers of ideas. And they're also creators of ideas. They kill old ideas that are holding us back. And they'll present new alternatives. Comedians are the perfect lubrication to have your number one idea being overtaken by your second best idea. They're the perfect heralds of the second best idea overtaking the first. Like, let's talk historical for a moment when we talk about comedians and satire. The Greeks, way back in ancient Greece, they would do plays at festivals and whatnot. And the thing about it is that you get everyone together, so everyone gets communal. There's trust, there's safety. You got the artists that were at the bottom of the social network, but they're given afforded privileges of the sense of being able to be satirical about their own leaders, being at the very bottom and being allowed to make fun of the people at the very top. So Greek kings and chiefs and political leaders of the people would be made fun of by artists in satire. They'd tell stories that would expose an oversight, a mistake, whatever it may be. Now, they got really good at it, getting all these plays and poking fun. But by the time the Romans came along, they adopted as much of the Greek culture as they wanted, like a buffet. And they took everything, including the play, including the theater. But like Rome, they wanted what they wanted and not what they didn't want. They didn't want people on high to be made fun of by the people on bottom. They didn't like satire. Depending on your Caesar, satire was illegal. You would get in trouble, if not killed, for posing mockery towards the people running the show. This kind of goes back to what I was talking about with humanity repeating itself. When you got unfit people in charge, they can't handle criticism. They can't handle mockery. And satire is like the pinnacle of all that. So in Rome, satire was starting to dwindle and be basically choked out of society because of Romans that don't know how to laugh at themselves. And then Rome collapses for every reason on why they collapsed. I'm not going to get into that. It's not because they didn't like satire. It could be one of the many straws that broke their back. Hard to defend and fight for something that you can't even make fun of. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's a small part, but maybe it is. I don't know. I'm speculating. Who am I to say? But the other thing, though, like with the fall of Rome, England, the rise of England, with Queen Elizabeth there, with Shakespeare, You saw the resurgence and rebirth of satire. You're allowed to make fun of rulers again. You weren't going to get hung, head chopped off, or thrown in a cage and worked at a slave camp for the rest of your short life. That wasn't the case with Queen Elizabeth enjoying theater. Sure, there's been turbulent times with theater throughout history, but my broad strokes here to show that stand-up comics, people that practice satire, have been around for a very long time in human history, and they haven't had the smoothest ride along the way. Very tumultuous, very just dangerous. Just a dangerous avenue to walk down, especially for very gentle-souled people that just want to make people laugh. They're going to get treated like they're some sort of badass warrior that can handle torture and handle fighting for their life. Anyway, with stand-up comedy though, why I also put it on such a high pedestal is that you get them challenging Deadwood thoughts. You know, Deadwood needs to go. It needs to burn. Whatever Deadwood is. Deadwood in the head, in the consciousness, in the hive collective consciousness of the country or continent that you're on. These things need to be challenged. They need to move forward. And stand-up comedians are like in my opinion, they're like modern day bar stool philosophers that exercise and practice thinking abstractly with a humorous twist. We need this in our society, or else we don't move forward. If you view humanity like water, do you want to drink water that just sits in one spot and has no other access to any type of movement? You going to drink that water? Or are you going to drink water that's been moving across the whole world, sliding over all sorts of minerals, moving at a pretty good clip? You going to drink that water? I'm not going to drink that still water. And comedians are like what moves water. They keep that water pure by exposing the darkness, exposing the ugly, exposing the lunacy, the hypocritical, anything. They're exposers, and they do it with the medium of humor. So I put them on a high pedestal because as a kid, like my first exposure to stand-up comedy was a blend of Eddie Murphy, a little bit of Richard Pryor, but mostly Eddie Murphy and Dennis Leary. These were the stand-up comedians of my childhood that really helped mold my sense of humor. And as I aged, I got into other stand-up comedians like Bill Hicks, Bill Burr, Bo Burnham, Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle, Theo Vaughn, Brian Callen, and I like Tom Segura. I like a whole list of others. Bert Kreischer. These are all great stand-up comedians, and they have a lot to teach through their humor. And that's what really kind of opened up my mind to view the world in a different lens over and over and over again. This is why they're needed. This is why there are these barstool philosophers that have something to say. They have status quos that they're trying to destroy or mold into a new shape. It's, to me, a noble profession that is thankless. How would humanity be if you eliminated stand-up comedy from the face of the earth right now? Just stand-up comedy. I'm going to say it's a darker place. I just straight up am. Because that's going to affect all your television shows. No more humor in there. Comedies, No more of that stand-up humor in there. So this is why it's important for us. It helps us laugh while in the dark. It helps us laugh while we're in the pain. Helps us relate to others that have experienced the same thing. One of the scariest things is to be victimized and then felt alone. You've been pulverized by life, and now you feel alone, like you can't relate with anyone. Whew. It's a nightmare. But then again, a stand-up comedian can come along and say something funny about the pain that you just experienced. Now you don't feel alone. Not only that, you just dwarfed the pain that's in your mind, in your psyche. You dwarfed it with something funny. And we can all relate to this in TV shows and episodes within those shows that have covered this type of basis. So yeah, stand-up comedians to me is like a priesthood of humanity that cannot be snuffed out. Not if we want to continue in progressing. We gotta laugh our way to paradise. We gotta laugh our way to utopia. We gotta laugh our way to wherever it is that we're pushing. But we gotta laugh our way there. And without that laughter, it's gonna be a dismal, dark place. So my recommendation is find a stand-up comedian, start watching their stuff. That's your homework. It's good homework. It'll make you laugh. Have a good one. Thanks for dropping by.